Good evening. I want to start out by giving a shout out to Lakeeba, Caitlin, and Lauren. We love you guys. I don't think people understand the bond that we had when you guys were growing up as a family. And on the behalf of my wife, Jonna, and myself, we celebrate Chette. And I want you to look around and understand the incredible impact by just looking at this room. And I know there's so many others right now that have tried to get here today. And if they could be here, they would, because Chette was a kingdom changer. What I've learned as I've grown older and wiser, hopefully, is that in all the craziness of the world, God really only gives us one task. He really does. And we get through all of the stuff in our life, and we worry about money, and we worry about jobs, and we worry about relationships, and we worry about all of the things that in the end, they matter, but they don't matter. And what I figured out is that God has one purpose for all of us. And that purpose is to change the kingdom. I truly believe that when we go to heaven, I truly believe that we're going to stand in front of God, and He is going to say to every one of us, "What did you do to advance my kingdom?" I believe that. Chette Williams was a kingdom changer. I met Chette in 2002, and I agree with Coach Tuberville. One of the best things he ever did was bring him to this university as a team chaplain. I came here from the University of Central Florida. I was a young coach, and I had heard that there was a team chaplain. But in all of my experiences up to that point, I didn't know what that was. Obviously, I knew what a chaplain was, but to have a team chaplain, to have somebody every single day with your football team was foreign to me. So in my mind, I'm picturing a guy that's going to walk in with a black shirt, white collar, and he's going to be our team chaplain. So I walk in the building for one of the first times that I came to Auburn. This dude comes walking around the corner with a pair of khakis, sweatshirt, and Copenhagen in his back pocket. I said, me and this guy, we're going to be all right. That was 23 years ago when I moved to Auburn. Chette and I ended up having a bond that was so far beyond football. Like so many of the players that you're going to hear tell the same story, Chette and I became incredible friends. He was an incredible mentor. That was at the point where my faith was growing, but certainly not great. And he always used to say to me, "Gene, God's running after you. He's chasing you. But you got to be all in." He used to say that to me all the time. In 2002, our bond grew because it wasn't just a football thing. Lakeeba, Lauren, and Caitlin, we used to babysitter trade. Couldn't afford babysitters back then. So we'd send our three, Kennedy, Landry, and Callie, who were total hellraisers, excuse me on the pulpit here. And all three of them would get together, and there'd be 6 of them, and I don't know how y'all handled it, because when your 3 came to us, I don't know how we handled it. But it was an incredible bond, an incredible family time, and great memories. I'll never forget in 2002, we played Arkansas at an 11 o'clock game, and it was my first year as a defensive coordinator, and I remember Arkansas ran up and down the field on us and beat us 38-17. Jason, you probably remember it. We didn't stop anybody on defense. There wasn't a lot of people that were real happy with me on Saturday night. And we got up the next morning, my wife and I, to some for sale signs in our yard. So the first thing I do is I run to Brother Chette and I said, Chette, dude, man, like, wife and I woke up and pulled the signs out of our yard before the kids could see them. I said, man, they put for sale signs in my yard. He said, welcome to Auburn, Chiz. We did Bible studies together on Thursdays for 3 years. Thursday morning before we had staff meetings, we did Bible studies. Those prayer meetings that Jason and so many of these players and Travis Williams talked about were one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. You talk about guys laying it on the line and dropping pride, dropping ego, because they needed help. And one thing that Chette always told me is that it's amazing, Gene, that we have 125 guys in a room, and we think we know them because we recruit them. We don't know what they got going on. He was so right. And those prayer meetings were powerful, and I'd never seen it like that. I'm eating my Friday night dinner before the very first one that I've ever walked into, and I thought, okay, we're going to have a prayer meeting. Well, I want to be a part of that. So I'm probably one of the last ones eating, and I figured, there'll be some people there. I walk into the room, there were seats in a circle, standing room only. Like these dudes were all in. Chette Williams was a kingdom changer. 5 years later, I would come back as the head coach in 2010. One of the first people I met with when I landed was Chette. And I said, Chette, man, I need you, brother. I need you. So we continued the bond like it never left. Wednesdays, him and I would have a one-on-one Bible study. Thursdays, we would have a staff Bible study, and the coaches craved it. And then he would continue on with his Friday night meetings, prayer meetings. But I don't think God cares who wins football games. I don't think he cares who wins championships. But I do believe that he answers prayer. And I can assure you in 2010, when we were fortunate enough to win every game, there was a lot of answered prayer. Here's what people don't know. Chette organized on a Friday for home games that we would go into the stadium before lunchtime, coaches and any players, and we would walk the field. And as we walked the field, we would literally pray on just about every 10-yard line. It would take us a while, but we would walk and we would pray. And we prayed right now that the players were safe. We prayed for victory. We prayed for whatever God hand has for us, that we could receive it well. Every single home game. That was Chette Williams. My wife and I talked about what could we do with Chette? How could we partner with Chette to really make a difference in these guys' lives? So we came up with the idea of some missions trips. Well, they were a great idea until we had to run it by Rich McGlynn. But we love Rich, and Rich was great, and he figured out a way to get it done. NCAA rules. We took a group to Liberia, Africa, second poorest country in the world. And they got to see real poor. And it changed lives. Chette Williams. I'll never forget this story, and then I'm going to wind it down. In 2010, we were on a crash course for playing Oregon in the national championship. We had to go through Tuscaloosa. People kind of had written Alabama off, but they had a great team, and they had great players, and they were really, really good. And we were undefeated. We kick off, and there's nothing that could have went more wrong that day than what happened in the first 30 minutes. It's 24-0. I sneak down the sideline to Chette. I said, hey, Brother Chette, Literally, if we're going to get out of this one, God better literally show up himself on this field. Chette smiled at me with that grin that you guys know, didn't say a word. So we score. It's 24-7. I looked down at Chette. He's about for me to the helmet. He's smiling again. So now there's about a minute left in the half. Alabama's on the 8-yard line, 2nd and goal. They're going to go in and score. And it's going to be 31-7 in Tuscaloosa. That would take a God miracle. Nick Fairley gets a strip sack fumble. We go into the locker room. Scores 24-7. We come out in 3 plays. We score. It's 24-14. Chette walks up to me just kind of quietly and he says, "Hey, I think God's on his way." We end up winning the game 28-27. Don't know that that's ever been done in Tuscaloosa, ever. Haven't researched it, but I know it'd be hard. We're walking off the field. I got done doing all the interviews. Chette walks up beside me and goes, "Hey, brother, he's here." That was Chette. I'm going to close with this because I wrote this. At his core, Chette was a country boy from Georgia. He was grounded in simplicity, humility, and hard work. Those who knew him best knew that he had a huge heart. He wanted to change the kingdom. He loved to laugh. He loved to eat wings at Buffalo Wild Wings, and I don't know why, but that's where I would meet him. But he deeply cared about everybody, especially the players. His friendship was a gift, and his legacy and faithful service will live on in so many people. In the great words of philosopher Kevin Yoxel, when we found the news of Chette, Yox called me, or I called him, I can't remember what it was. And Yox said, "You know what? When you and I go to heaven, you and I are going to have to sit there and wait a while to get in. But I'm pretty sure Chette got a straight escort." God bless.